Central Valley Real Estate, and I'm trying to figure out where to start with our next guest because he is just all over the place. The gardening master. He's worked on colleges. He's a marketing expert. He does radio tips, TV tips. He might even be involved in a show in the future here in Central Valley Talk. Mr. Ed Dunn, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you, Zach.
Yeah, how are you today, young man?
Great, thank you.
Yeah? You have a busy day so far?
Yeah, I always have a busy day.
So tell me about today.
Well, today I was, of course, on the internet, talking with people on conference calls. I have talked to one of my main friends, Gary Kokola, who's also been instrumental in getting me in multiple TV markets with my 1 minute Eddie the Lazy Landscaper gardening tips.
Yeah.
So
he's the man. And why do you call yourself the Lazy Landscaper?
Well, that's a character I came up with a few years ago, and one day my wife said, why don't you use all your marketing skills and promote this guy? And really what Eddie the Lazy Landscaper is probably what a kind of character personality a lot of women are married to, and I'm not picking on guys, who really enjoy the beautiful outdoors. They love their yard. They really love their grilling station in that beautiful yard, but they're not really willing to do a lot to keep that yard beautiful. I mean, they might mow the lawn perhaps, but they would probably rather be on a hammock or watching sports or whatever. So Eddie the Lazy Landscaper is kind of that guy. Somebody the other day said, well, you're like the Maytag repairman, but you do even less than he does.
Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, that's right.
That's awesome.
I did a lot of research. I looked at HGTV, DIY, network, and there was nobody who was this kind of guy who really didn't want to do a lot. But really appreciated a beautiful, water-wise yard. And so I represent that guy. Obviously, I'm not that lazy or I wouldn't be doing all the things I'm doing. But I think a lot of people identify with the lazy landscaper because they really would like to have yards that aren't labor-intensive. We're all busy.
I already identify with it, just the lazy landscaper. What that means to me is you do the least amount possible to make your yard look the best as possible.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There are a lot of great products out there. In fact, I got a call the other day from someone in North Hollywood that said, we'd like you to think about representing our product. And they actually have a very good product. I won't mention it right here because that hasn't been finalized. Right. But that's the kind of thing I enjoy doing. But that's the kind of thing I enjoy doing where there's a product, let's say. It could be a pre-emergent weed product, let's say, where you apply it 1, 2, 3 times a year, and it drastically cuts down on the weeds.
Wow.
Wow. So, or it may be a systemic product that helps your plants stay healthy by fighting off the bugs and all the other kinds of things that can go on with it. So, I like products and I like services that help people maintain lovely yards, but maybe the yards now have less lawn area and maybe more water-wise plants, maybe more hardscape, If you looked at the garden designing magazines, there are a lot of myriad ideas about how to make your yard look beautiful without using as much water, without using as much pesticide.
I'm seeing a ton of value not only in your company but yourself as well, because you're not only offering somebody to come out and make your yard look great, but you're offering a product to teach people how to do it themselves.
How to do it themselves and how to add beauty to your yard. And I think we have a video we might be able to look at in a minute, one of those 1-minute gardening tip videos that says, hey, here's something you can do. Doesn't cost a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of space because remember, a lot of people are downsizing. We have 79 million baby boomers who are downsizing. I'm one of them, and so we have less area to work with. But that doesn't mean that we can't make it attractive.
We have less area to work with. We have a growing market of people that want to grow their own food and grow their own stuff, and even just their herbs. And I like growing cilantro, basil. I'm a huge basil fan now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Tomatoes grow very tall and in a small space, so I'm already seeing some Italian caprese right there with
absolutely
a little bit of basil, a little bit of tomato, and if you want to put in the time or just walk down the street to the farmer's market, buy some fresh mozzarella, it even saves you money. People don't realize that.
You're absolutely right. I just went on a Master Gardener tour, and my home was on, the yard was on it too, that I remember going to one that I really liked. They had raised beds.
Yeah.
And I like those. You don't have to bend over as much. But you know what? They also retain the moisture, so you don't need as much. There are just some neat additives you can do in your soil now that help retain water. There's just been some wonderful scientific breakthroughs. So Eddie the Lazy Landscaper is a guy that really appreciates that.
And he's also someone that sounds like he can convey a lot of new information and trends and translate a lot of this stuff. Especially with the growing industry, you're just going to start getting dumped with knowledge and magazines and advertisements, and this is better than that. So this is the guy that you ask to differentiate or to translate all that.
Yeah, there's a lot to sort through. You're absolutely right, and that's why I do my 1-minute gardening tips. Is I think it can get to people whether it's in a news program or wherever it's presented. And eventually I probably will do a half hour, an hour show. But right now, between writing the column for Central California Life magazine and doing the 1-minute tips in the West on television stations. And on radio locally.
I think you're in a much better position anyway because you're not having to sit down for an hour or a half hour and just learn. If you want to learn that, you'll do that. But now you can just, all right, well, I'm drinking my coffee. I'm catching up in the morning. I'm driving to work, listening to some talk radio. I just got 5 1-minute tips by my man Ed Dunn.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, that's a huge.
And I get a lot of positive texts and feedback on. I have a Facebook page. Lazy Landscaper, and then I have Eddie at thelazylandscaper.com. I get emails, and of course my website, thelazylandscaper.com. You can go up and see videos I've done that are running on these stations, a lot of them, and you can read my column.
Wow.
You can see a little blog information, that kind of thing.
And before we check that video out, what caused you or what inspired you or almost informed or educated you how to be so savvy with social media and internet and technology? And you're smart because you're putting your name everywhere.
Well, I have an interesting background, I think, in a way. It's an odd confluence of 35 years of marketing coming together with 35 years, because I've been a marketing executive for a national company and headed the marketing efforts. But I've also been an avid gardener for 35 years. And now I'm a master gardener, and I sit on the board. So that combination of things has allowed me to communicate what I think a lot of homeowners
and people like tips based on not starting from the ground up. They like tips that are based off of current problems that you deal with. Or I'm an experienced gardener. Not everybody's going to like this, but I personally love to grow red roses or snapdragons. So here's my personal touch or information what I have discovered for these past 10 to 30 to 40 years, what I think is the number one focus of your gardening, or the number one tip that I can give you.
And then trying to keep up on the latest products, as you mentioned, which ones are good or not as good, in my opinion, which ones are better for the environment and not as harmful. And of course, with the drought, I've been involved in 2 recent seminars, day-long seminars, to do with saving water, conserving water. And some of it just has to do with choosing the right plants for the area, native plants especially. And here in the Central Valley, it's really critical.
And we could go crazy if we talk about the drought. I think you're going to be a great. I'll bring you back eventually, and we'll talk about what we can do to better the drought and protect ourselves from that. But
sure.
For our viewers that are in that position, saying, I do not know how I'm going to pay this $400 or $500 water bill. I do not know how I'm going to make my yard look decent. I don't even care if it looks great. I just want it to look decent.
Right.
There's your guy right here.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to do that, and there are lots of organizations to help. And of course, the Master Gardeners are one of them. There's some very forward-thinking, nurseries with staff, who do that. We just did a big deal out at Belmont Nursery, for instance, with the University of California in cooperation, and the Green Building Council, and that combination drew a lot of professionals, landscape architects, irrigation specialists, commercial landscapers, who wanted to be on the leading edge of information to help their clients. And then we had some great vendors out there who provide some of that hardscape materials, great products that help amend the soil so that the soil retains water. Those are the kind of things that are really important to home gardeners.
Fresno, California. Like, that is so cool. We are leading the world, the state, in what we're going to do about this drought. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like we don't solve this problem now, another region, another area is going to deal with the same thing.
Well, they are. Different regions are dealing with the problem in different ways, and really what it comes down to a lot to do is having knowledge of your particular area, the kind of soils that you have here, and the kind of plants that do well, rather than try to bring in plants that are not native to here, or at least are not water-wise, drought tolerant in some cases, plants. And that doesn't mean you have to have a lot of cacti. I mean, there are a lot of plants that do very well in trees that are lovely and colorful, but don't use that much water.
Ed, you're packed full of information today. Let's go ahead and show that 1-minute video of your gardening tips so people know what we're talking about.
I think this one has to do with decorative green screens.
Okay, decorative green screens, all right.
Hi, fellow gardeners. I know you have some things around your house on the outside that you would prefer not be seen, such as those gorgeous gas meters or electrifying electric panels. Well, guess what? I've got just the thing for you. Hey everybody, this is Eddie the Lazy Landscaper, and I want to talk to you today about something that I do at my own home, and that is to use something that's living that can hide something that you don't want people to see. In this particular case, I've used a star jasmine on a trellis to hide behind it a clock for the sprinklers and a clock for the yard lights. A matching screen helps to hide the cable box, an electrical box, a gas meter. It also hides these water valves. If you've got a question for me, or you have an idea, some information you want to share with me, please send it to my email address or to my Facebook. Happy gardening.
Yeah, I don't know where to start. You're teaching us how to not only grow cool stuff in our own yard, but how to make our house look better. If I were a realtor, if I were selling a house, I would be jumping on Mr. Ed's services because you're going to make a house more valuable. You're going to make a little bit more commission for that realtor. You're going to make a little bit more money for that seller. Am I correct?
Yes, and maybe a little more friendly yard for the next owner. People are busy nowadays. And even retired people, and I live in a semi-retirement community, if you will, they don't want to have to do a lot of heavy lifting, if you will, in their yard, but they want a lovely yard. They want an easy maintenance yard. They want one that doesn't cost a lot to maintain, and they don't want to have to do a lot of the work.
Now, does that add value to your house when you're selling?
Well, I think it does, and I think your real estate program here, you've had some very good realtors today, including one of my friends, Larry Hunting, and I think most of them would agree that if you can have an attractive yard that isn't labor intensive nor expensive to keep, for upkeep, and then also doesn't require a lot of water, that's important too. And I think folks are looking at that more now. And then also be able to do vertical gardening, gardening that doesn't take up, like that green screen, doesn't take up a big footprint, but has a function. It softens the wall. It hides things you don't need to see or want to see, like pool equipment, whatever. And yet it's easy to maintain. It's green year-round. I mean, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I love plants in general. Being in I like being in downtown because I grew up in Oakhurst, the center area. But every time I come around that corner on 41 coming into Oakhurst, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely,
your lights just light up.
You
your
are right.
Are going. Mr. Ed, very, very lucky that we got to have you on the show today because you can add such value to people's homes, to people's lives, and to the Central Valley. And I'm going to sneak in some nonprofit events in the future with you because we definitely love our gardens and schools. Ed, I really appreciate you stopping by again today.
My pleasure.
I can't wait to have you as a guest on my own show, California Health and Fitness, which is tomorrow, 3 p.m., filmed live. Now remember, you can check all of these YouTube videos out on our Central Valley Talk page as well as the Central Valley Real Estate page. And you can also see this episode for the next week every day at a certain time. Just go ahead and go to the Central Valley Talk website and find out. You guys, I'll see you next week. This was Zach Browning in Central Valley Real Estate. Thank you.